I went down like a week before the assassination. The purpose of that was for me to go to Dallas, look over the area, learn dead-end streets, railroad crossings, time for train crossings. They already knew the regular motorcade route that he would be taking.
The President's car is now turning onto Elm Street, and it will be only a matter of minutes before he arrives at the trademark.
I said, well, the spot I like best is up on the grassy knoll behind that stockade fence. He says, why there? I said, I got the railroad yard for cover. At 100 feet, I'm talking about we're shooting now from the grassy knoll down to the highway to the street there. We're talking roughly 30, 35 yards. We're only talking 100 feet. This is like shooting fish in a barrel. As I was walking away, he told me, don't run. He said, just walk away natural, Jimmy. He said, don't show no attention.
The President of the United States is dead. It's official, as of just a few moments ago.
There was nobody behind that stockade fence but me at that point. Nobody. All the time I was there, I was alone.
I'm pulling in now toward Parkland Hospital, coming to the approach. The officer waving me down. He's waving me around. There's a cordon. There's already a cordon of police officers.
There's a bullet right through the head.
I didn't shoot anybody, sir. I haven't been told what I'm here for. You have a lawyer? No, sir, I don't. No, they're taking me in because of the fact that I live in the Soviet Union. I'm just a patsy.
There's the man with a gun.
I'm fixing to lose my fill of fire. And at this point, either I shoot or I can put it in a suitcase and leave, one or the other. I took the shot.
What is your real name?
My real name is James Sutton.
And you were born when?
I was born January 24th, 1942 in Alabama. And if you find my birth certificate, it will plainly state deceased at birth.
How was that arranged?
I have no idea, but I was trying to get a birth certificate for my own records, and they could not locate one at first. And the lawyer in Alabama went through everything, went to the Capitol, and when he got through, he found it 3 months later, I had a birth certificate in there that says deceased at birth.
Now, can the mob do something like that, or is that the government?
That's only the government. Mob knows a lot of things, they got ways to get things done, but when it comes into this kind of stuff, that's out of their category. I'm gonna tell you, when it comes to government and underhanded work, the mob, they're kindergarten. They're kindergarten. I might upset a lot of people in the family saying that, but they're kindergarten when it comes to working with the government.
Is it true that during the Clinton administration that you were presented as a threat to national security?
That was in 1998. Historian for the 82nd Airborne. He was doing a lot of research area on me. His name was John Grady. But he did a lot of research on me and checked through a lot of people, found out me to be credible. He verified a lot of things that him and I discussed. He come here to visit me. And when him and I was corresponding, he was approached by the Secret Service. And they warned him that I was a threat to national security. And in 1998, I don't remember what month it was, but Janet Reno and President Bill Clinton at that time declared me as a threat to national security. It was basically for training manuals and formulas and information they retrieved out of one of my storage sheds when they raided it.
Boy, today under Homeland Security, they probably have you as a terrorist threat, since you know how to make bombs.
That could be. I know there is a U.S. Marshals detaining on me at this time.
U.S. Marshals what?
There is a U.S. Marshals detaining on me at this time.
What does that mean?
That means the day I walk out of here, the U.S. Marshals will be here to pick me up. They want to talk to me. There is no outstanding charges. There's no charges against me. What they have against me is a detainer. All they want to do is talk to me. What they want to know is they want to be notified when I leave here, in other words. When Joe West first originally contacted me here at Stateville Prison, I was on a visit. The counselor came in to the visiting room where I was at and stated that she wanted me to come out and make a phone call. I told him, you have 3 minutes to convince me why I should talk to you. As Joe started talking to me, I told him, I said, whoa, stop. I said, you're on a lot of touchy spots. I said, these phone calls are recorded. Every phone call going in and coming out is recorded. If you want to talk to me that bad, then I suggest you come and visit me. Joe West had me put him on his visiting list. He come up to visit me. The first day, I wouldn't even talk to him about the Kennedy situation. We got into sports, weather, generally about prison, local things till I got comfortable with him. The next day, after I thought it over all night, Joe West seemed like a pretty nice guy. I really liked Joe. He had a magnetism about him. The next day we sat down, we got serious, and then we started talking. Oh, I asked him, he said that someone had informed him that I was there. He said he had a reliable source. And I didn't know for quite a while who that source was. It was quite some time later before I learned the fact that the FBI was aware of my presence as early as 1964. Because I never knew that anyone ever knew about me. But Zach Sheldon, from what I understand, and I'm only quoting this from hearsay, that Zach was the one that stated and gave me to Joe West the information on me, that I was in Dealey Plaza. Well, the whole thing is, like with Joe West died. He passed away, never knowing that I was one of 2 shooters there in Dealey Plaza that day. Joe West never knew I was on the grassy knoll. Joe West had the case in court. He wanted to exhume John F. Kennedy's body. And that's what he was fighting for. And at this point, when I talked to Joe West, I explained to him that John F. Kennedy had been hit in the head with a mercury round, a special load. At this point, I explained to him, he can use this in the courts to have the body exhumed because there would still be traces of mercury, because the traces of mercury do not disappear. It'll always be there. And so this is what Joe West wanted, to go back with more evidence and use this to get Kennedy's body exhumed, to look for traces of mercury.
And the court had accepted his case?
The court had accepted his case. But with his death, the case died. I've been drinking this water for the past 12 years with radium in it, so has every prisoner here. We wasn't aware of the water situation until Oliver Stone come along to make a movie here. And when he made his movie here, we see all these people from the movie company running around carrying bottles of water. Even the officers that worked here, they got suspicious. And that's when we started finding out this water's unhealthy.
Did you actually meet with Oliver Stone?
I met Oliver Stone 3 times. Matter of fact, I have a paper that Joe West, not Joe West, but Bob Vernon had Oliver Stone sign. Now, Bob Vernon come in after the Joe West deal. Bob Vernon took over for Joe West. Bob Vernon met with Oliver Stone, and he had him sign an agreement where they wanted to get me on film, but I refused to do that. I met with Oliver Stone 3 times.
And you never told him your story?
No, I did not tell Oliver Stone my story. I refused to discuss it with him. And Like I said, I've got a copy of this. I got Oliver Stone's signature, Bob Burnham's the only signature on it. It states what it's all about. The only thing missing is my signature because I would never sign that paper for the agreement.
Why was that?
I didn't like the man.
Case closed.
Case closed. And if you'd like, I'd be more than happy to send you a copy of the document. And it's got Oliver Stone's original signature on it. And it has Bob Burnham's signature on it. The first time that I knew about anything being planned on Kennedy, I'd heard a lot of rumors that nobody liked Kennedy. They wanted to kill Kennedy. They wanted to assassinate him. They wanted to do everything to the man.
Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
I was upset with him over the bad pigs, but I never paid any attention to any of this at first because, you know, everybody talks. Somebody gets mad at somebody and right away, and I'm going to take this guy out, I'm going to take that person out, woo, 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 you know, a lot of barking, junkyard dogs barking, you know. But I was sitting in the Harlow Grill that evening playing the pinball machine, not the flipper kind, the kind with numbers where you gamble on and you put about $10 in to play a game. And Charles Nicoletti walked in, a man that I did a lot of work with, a man that I respected. And he walked in the back room where I was at, says, "Jimmy, let's go." I said, "I'll be with you in a minute." He reached over and tilted the machine and said, "Let's go now." My reply was, "Yes, sir, Mr. Nicoletti." I knew he wasn't in no mood to wait and hang around. He said, "I want to talk to you." I went out, I got in his car, and we went for a ride. And he told me, he says, "We're going to do a friend of yours." I'm talking about President Kennedy, JFK. And I looked at him and I said, "What?" He says, "JFK." He says, "Your buddy." I said, "Well, he just busting, you know, giving me a hard time when he knew JFK. He knew how much I disliked the man." I looked at him and I laughed. I said, "Okay, fine with me. You get in arguments there." And at this point, I still kind of thought, you know, he just joking with me. But then he got real serious about it. And then we started talking, and he told me, he says, "What I'm going to want you to do," he says, "I'm going to look around." He says, "We'll search the area around the town here." He says, "You know everything pretty good," he says, "and see where we're going to do it at, what kind of weapons we're going to need, and other things like that," he says. And he mentioned, he said he was going to bring Johnny Roselli in on it. Fine with me, and I don't care who we work with. You know, I like Johnny, I had no problems with him. And originally we'd planned to do it in the Chicago area, but certain people didn't like that idea. Certain people high up in organized crime, they wasn't too happy about the idea of having something like that happen to that magnitude in their backyard, because they figured Bobby would really be down there, you know, and they already had their own little private wars going. So then we put it off, and this is like 6 months before the assassination ever really took place. So we decided, well, we'd take it moving. So I had no idea it was going to Texas at that point, because they didn't know where he was going to go. They were looking for an area to go. They had several different locations. There was New Orleans, and I don't know, there's other places he was going to. But when it come down to it, I had been told there was places that they had planned to do it. Other people had been authorized, you know, stuff like that. Just different rumors you hear. How much credibility is to it, I cannot say.
And describe the car.
The car was a '63 Chevy two-door Burgundy, Chevy Impala.
With the special compartments.
Oh, we had special, yeah, we had the special compartment, the dash. We had the back seats, you could take that off, pull the bottom part out, then you raise the back up, snap it off the little clamps, take that out. We had the springs removed in the, behind the seat there by it. And we had little racks welded in there so we could mount weapons in there.
Okay, so now you got your weapons, you got your loads, you got your car. How did it come together after that?
Well, just before I left, final instructions was, Chuck told me, he said, "I want you to leave first thing in the morning." He says, "And I don't want you driving at night." He said, "I want you on the highway with a lot of traffic during daytime where nobody pays any attention to you."
Let's go back. Give me a date or approximate date.
I don't remember the approximate date, but I went down like a week before the assassination. I want to say I was in the Dallas area 5 days before the assassination took place.
And what was the purpose of that?
The purpose of that was for me to go to Dallas, look over the area, learn dead-end streets, railroad crossings, time for train crossings. They already knew the regular motorcade route that he would be taking, and they had already looked that over, and they wanted to see if there's any better places, and a lot of people had already decided on. I'm not the one that chose Dealey Plaza, but I was told to look it over very close and look and see if I thought there's any other place better. And I did the whole area from the route they had. All the way through, I had Lee Harvey Oswald with me.
Did you call anybody when you got to Dallas?
I made 2 telephone calls when I got there. I called Charles Nicoletti, told him that I was on the scene and where I was at in case he had to reach me. I turned around and made another phone call. I called David Atlee Phillips. I had a number to call. The call was put through to David Phillips, and he was notified where I was at, because I had not told him in advance that I was going to Dallas, Texas, because he always had to know where I was at because he was my controller. CIA purposes, special operations, or something that might be needed done. We always stayed in contact. We had numbers to call. He said, thank you, and let it go at that. We didn't have any great discussion on the phone. I told him where I was at, the location, and through David Atlee Phillips is the only way that Lee Harvey Oswald could have known where I was at. I was staying at the Lamplighter Inn right there in Mesquite, Texas.
And then the next thing you knew, Lee Harvey Oswald showed
The
up.
following morning, Lee Harvey Oswald was there. When he knocked on the door, I opened the door and I was shocked to see him because I didn't think anybody knew where I was at except for the other 2 people. Because Charles Nicoletti had never met Lee Harvey Oswald.
You didn't know him?
He did not know him. I had known Lee Harvey Oswald prior to that. I knew him from earlier operation that we was on with David Phillips when I was running semi-automatic 45 caliber submachine guns down to Clinton, Louisiana. They were made, I think they were manufactured by Knoxville Arms. I met Lee Harvey Oswald through David Atlee Phillips. When I got down there, he introduced me to Lee. And he also instructed me that Lee could be trusted and that he was Lee's controller. He made it a statement because I wanted to know who he was dealing with and who I was giving weapons to. He also explained to me that he was Lee Harvey Oswald's controller, the same as he was mine. That he was always in contact with Lee Harvey Oswald. Through common sense tells me the only one that could have sent Lee Harvey Oswald to me was David Atlee Phillips. And so I asked Lee, I says, what the hell are you doing here? Because I was shocked, you know. He said, I was advised to drop by and spend some time with you and see if I could help you out. I said, help me out? He said, yes. He says, somebody wants me to show you the area. And I said, okay, just come on in. So he come on in, so we sat down and we talked, and I stopped by with you in a few minutes. And I was young and cocky at that time, and I'd just come out of the shower and everything, and I was calling my hair, so I had a camera there, so I told Lee, I said, hey, make a couple of pictures while I'm here in Texas. And so Oswald made a couple of pictures of me, and then he said, let me have the film, I'll get it developed. I said, no. I said, I get the whole roll of film. So that was how I got a couple of pictures made that people have recently asked me about. We drove around Dallas, Lee Harvey Oswald and I, we drove around Dallas right before the assassination. I did not see Lee Harvey Oswald on the morning of the assassination, but prior to that, Lee Harvey Oswald had been with me every day. We drove around, he showed me different streets, different areas. He was the one that took me out to the place southeast of Mesquite there, next to a big junkyard. We went out there in the field, he said, ain't nobody gonna bother you out here, you know, because I wanted to calibrate the scopes for not only for the fireball, but for other weapons as well. And while I was out there firing weapons and ejecting shell casings, Lee was picking them up and holding them in his hand. But I didn't want to leave no casings or nothing behind, and I'm busy firing, so I looked at Lee, grab them casings. And that's what he did. He picked them and he held on to them until we got released. I calibrated my scopes, set things up, put the stuff back in the car, and we got back in. We went riding around, and I wanted to know the railroad crossings. I wanted to wait and see what time trains come through. I want to know if there's any passengers, if there was freight trains, they stopped, the track's going to be blocked, intersection's going to be blocked, dead-end streets, construction work, where every intersection was at, where all the lights were at, how long the lights were, they stayed red. I wanted all these little details. He worked in the book depository stores, what he told me. I was never in that place, but he had time off to come out and spend time with me, and then I would drop him off in the area and he would go somewhere, and I guess that's where he went. I had never asked him where he went, what he done, who he saw.
The world will never know the true facts of what occurred, my motives. The people that had so much to gain and had such a material motive will put me in a position I'm in. We'll never let the true facts come above board to the world.
Now, these people are in very high positions, Jack?
Yes.
I had met Johnny Roselli before. I'd met him in Florida, Miami.
Any jobs with him?
Never any jobs with him. I'd talk with him and around, but we never, we was probably involved in some of the same operations or things, but with the same people, but we never went out and did anything together.
Were you aware that Roselli was working with the government again in anti-Castro?
Yes, I was well aware that Johnny Roselli was involved in the government actions. He was like the liaison between CIA and organized crime, and he was heavily involved in the invasion of Cuba, Bay of Pigs, Chianos Bay, whichever you prefer to call it. But he was also very tight with Frank Sturgis. Frank Sturgis headed up the SAO, which is the secret army organization, what this is all about. And they've had so many different code names for wanting to kill Castro, I couldn't even name half of them. But every time you turned around, somebody had a new operation going.
So tell us about the trip over to Fort Worth.
The trip over to Fort Worth, Johnny Roselli went there to meet somebody by the name of Jack Ruby. I had never knew Jack Ruby, nothing about him. When I got there and pulled into the parking lot, Johnny Roselli told me, he said, let me go in first, see where I'm gonna sit, come in, position your stuff. And he asked me, he said, are you carrying? And I said, yeah, I'm carrying. He says, good. He says, when I sit down where I'm sitting at, he said, I don't know what may transpire. He said, something could go wrong. He said, but be very alert. He said, keep my backside covered. He said, I won't be in your line of fire. And I said, okay, I'll pick up open field of fire. I says, wherever I figure I can handle it. I said, I'll go sit down, I'll come in position myself. Johnny Roselli went in and they had like, you could call it a booth at the table sitting there, you know, it wasn't bolted to the floor or nothing. But he sat down in that, and I went in shortly right behind him. I positioned myself at the counter, ordered a cup of coffee, was served, and sit there. And then I sit there and I watched until short, stocky built man come in, walked over, Johnny got up, they shook hands, they sit down, they talked for a couple of minutes. I seen him take like a half size, like a legal envelope, but only half that size, out of his jacket, and he pushed it across the table to Johnny Roselli. He got up, they shook hands, this man left, Johnny waited maybe 2 minutes, Johnny looked at me, I got up, I walked out of the restaurant, made sure the area's clear, nobody outside in the parking lot. I went over, got in the car, started up, I pulled up by the door, Johnny Roselli walked out, got in the car, and we drove away.
Did you ask him or did you find out in some way what was in the envelope?
On the way back to Dallas, Johnny and me was riding down the road. He didn't open the envelope right away. We got almost, I think it's Arlington, it's about halfway there. I'm saying halfway, it could be less one way or the other. Been a long time for me. But we was right about Arlington. And Johnny opened the envelope up, started taking stuff out and looking at it. Excuse me. He's looking at it, I'm noticing over, I'm watching over while I'm driving. And he's got these little black wallets, like half-sided, like identification wallets. And he opened them up and there's identification plates in them and there's badges on them. At that point, I didn't know what the identification on it was because he's sitting there looking at it and I'm not gonna lead over, I'm not gonna say, give me one of those or anything like that. I'll wait when they want me to know, he'll tell me. And then he opened up a piece of paper and he unfolded it. And there's been a lot of discrepancy over this part now. But Johnny Roselli said they only made one change in the route. And it was a map of Dealey Plaza, the motorcade route. When he looked at it for Dealey Plaza, he said they've only made one alter, one change in it. He said, that's all. And I said, what's that? And he said, they're going to go down Elm Street. But I already had reconned the area, so I knew what he was talking about. And I know everybody says, well, they had the motorcade in the newspaper weeks and months ahead of time. True, they did, but they didn't have that one change.
How did Roselli get to Dallas?
At that point, Roselli, he mentioned to me, Johnny Roselli, we was on the way to Fort Worth, and I asked him, when did you get in? He said, I got in this morning. He said, I got in early this morning. He said, I hadn't been here a couple hours. And I said, how'd you get in? And he said he got lucky. He caught a ride on a plane that's sponsored by the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA. I said, how the hell did you manage that one? He said, I got lucky. He's had somebody there. I didn't ask no more. He didn't elaborate any more than that. I didn't dig any deeper than that. I still don't know that he's there on an abort mission. I have no knowledge of that at this point of the game. Johnny Roselli got out of the car, went back in the hotel. I waited maybe 5 to 7 minutes for Charles Nicoletti to come down. When he got down, Mr. Nicoletti got in the car with me and said, let's go. We took off. I said, where to? He said, take me over by the plaza. We went over, we parked, it's drizzling rain, we get out, we're walking around. This is the first time that Charles Nicoletti has even mentioned to me about an abort team. While we're walking around, Charles Nicoletti asked me, he says, how do you feel about being backup? I said, what do you mean backup? He says, how would you feel about being backup as a shooter for me? I said, what happened to Johnny? What's with Johnny? And he said, Johnny's a little bit paranoid on this. He says, the CIA's called the hit off. He said, well, he doesn't want to go against the orders of the CIA. He said, what he wants to call off. He said, he flew in here as an abort team. He said, they flew a plane here specially with him on it to tell us to call it off. He said, they don't want the hit to go down. And I said, well, what'd you say? Chuck's exact words were, it's going anyway. And I told him, I said, well, what about Johnny? He said, well, Johnny's good. Johnny will be with me, he says, but he's not going to be a shooter. He said, he doesn't want to go against the orders. He said, he's been told he flew in here specifically to abort this assassination. And so I asked him at that point, I said, what'd you say? I said, it's a go. He said, we're going to do it. He said, Jimmy, he says, you know we can't call this off. Only one man can stop it. And he was referring to Sam Giancana. He was the number 2 man at that time. A lot of people's going to tell you he was number 1, but not true. Tony Accardo was still running things. He turned things over. He had Sam Giancana running all this operation and everything, but Tony Accardo was still the man, and he was still calling the shots on whatever went down, whatever was done. I knew of no other crime family being involved. I heard rumors, but do I know if anybody else was involved? No, I do not know if anybody else was involved.
Okay.
That would have been out of character for them to even notify me about that or anybody else. That only stays up in the higher ranks of the family or the people or the crime family, whoever you wish to describe it. About 10:30 a.m., Mr. Nicoletti told me he asked me to be the backup shooter. And that was the first inkling of anything that I would ever be involved in the assassination itself. Prior to that, I was only know the area and transport weapons. It started clearing about 10:45, I believe, the best I can remember. I could be off a few minutes. I know it had been drizzling rain, it was cold, it was damp. Sun didn't come out until, after 11 a.m., I believe. And I told Johnny, I said, yes, I'd be honored. I told Mr. Nicoletti, I said, I would be honored to back you on it. I said, anything you ask, I'll do. And he asked me where I thought it would be the best place for him. And I told him the Dow Tech building. Because the Dow Tech building gave him a better shot with him taking the straight run through at a high rate of speed. And evidently, I'm quite certain that they had all this prearranged on that part of it, as that place is his location, and for him and Johnny as far as that goes, because they already had made an arrangements to be admitted into the building. Oh, he didn't check it, he just asked my opinion. He has always questioned me about different things. He used me like a sounding board. Like maybe, you're in business, you're in the office, you might ask one of your people around you, what do you think about this? You don't really care what he thinks, you're just asking for an opinion to see what he thinks. Maybe you overlook something, or maybe somebody's got a better idea than you do at this time of the game. He respected me for my knowledge of weapons, my knowledge of knowing terrain, because I'd been in combat, and the first thing you walk into an area is, to you it's a landscape, to me it's terrain. Because if I walk in and I walk into an ambush, I want to know where the low spots are, the high spots are, where all the coverage is. I got to know where I can get my rear end down so I don't get shot off. You got to have a place to go to ground in a hurry. You cannot afford to stand around and be looking around and wondering, gee, where can I go from here? You do, you're dead. You got to think. That's why you take all this training in the military. You're trained not to think, but to react. Mr. Nicoletti asked me, he said, if you back me up, Jimmy, he says, where do you think it'd be the best spot for you? And I said, well, the spot I like best is up on the grassy knoll behind that stockade fence. He says, why there? I said, I got the railroad yard for cover, I said, my clothes, I can turn my jacket inside out. I said, it's plaid on the inside. It looks like railroad workers. Somebody out there wearing a flannel shirt. Nobody's going to pay no attention to me. I said, I can go over there. I can walk around a piece of chalk, walk up and down by boxcars, cross the railroad tracks, look at things. I'd just be another worker. Nobody'd even look at me. And he said, okay. He says, what weapon are you going to use over there? And I told him, and Chuck, I said, well, what's the situation? Chuck said, you know, we're going for a headshot now. I said, this I understand, I realize this. He said, you're not going to fire unless it becomes a necessity. He says, if I miss, he said, then it's going to be up to you. He said, but you don't fire, he said, unless I miss. He said, it's going to be your call at that point. He said, so you got to be very alert on this. And I told him, don't worry about me. I said, I got it, boss. And he said, what are you going to use? I said, I'm going to use the fireball. And he looked at me and says, why? Why the fireball? Now the fireball, for people who don't know what a fireball is, it's like a cut-down rifle. It's actually basically this long. The weapon was well ahead of its time. This was one of the prototypes the agency had got a hold of that had been manufactured by Remington. Now a lot of people are going to tell you that this particular weapon was not available at that time, but this weapon was available. It didn't go on sale till a few years later. But this weapon had been manufactured as early as 1961. We had a lot of trouble with the barrel blowing up on it, used too big a round on it or something, overloads in it. A lot of problems with it, but they finally reinforced the barrel. We got it where it worked pretty good. And Chuck asked me, he says, why the fireball? He said, you've only got one shot, because the Remington Fireball 222 is a single shot bolt action pistol, and you can mount a scope on it. So, well, if I'm gonna wait until you're through, I said, I'm only gonna get one shot anyway, so it don't really matter. I said, because I'll never get a chance for a second shot if I wait until the last possible moment. He said, okay. He said, it's your call.
Where'd you get hold of a prototype weapon like the XP-100?
It was given to me by David Phillips. I'd received this maybe a year prior, 8 months, year prior to the assassination. The gun had been used twice before on assassinations, but nobody like a president or nothing. But it was good for using. If you want to get into a close place area or somewhere, somebody might say, well, why use a pistol? Well, anybody that knows their weapons, this particular piece of sub is very accurate, it's up to 100 yards. At 100 feet, I'm talking about we're shooting now from the grassy knoll down to the highway to the street there, we're talking roughly 30, 35 yards. We're only talking 100 feet. This is like shooting fish in a barrel, and especially a little 3-power scope on it. But the weapon had been used before, but you could put it in a briefcase, you could walk anywhere with it, nobody pay any attention to it. The case that I had set up, I had a little loading press inside for it, in case I had to manufacture anything. I had a little holder for all the special rounds that were in it. Everything was packed in foam rubber inside. The case was watertight, waterproof.
What the case looked like?
The case was black. It was like an oversized briefcase, basically speaking. And handle on a little metal flaps on it, you know, for locking it up. You could lock the case, but I wasn't concerned about locking it. But the thing is, you could take it, you could go anywhere you look like a businessman with it. And I felt that was the best weapon to go with. And so Mr. Nicoletti agreed with me on it. He said, okay, it's your call, Jimmy. Now then, I did not drop Charles Nicoletti or Johnny Roselli off at the Dowtech building. They got into the building, they were there on their own. I told them where the car would be, it's his car, he knows his car. He knows what my job is. They'll be in the car, he'll be in the front seat, Johnny will be in the back seat, I'll get under the driver's wheel. I'll set my briefcase between the front and the back seat, we'll drive away. After I took Charles Nicoletti back to the hotel, I went back to the plaza, secured the car, got my briefcase out with a gun in it, with a fireball in it. I went into the railroad yard. I secured that over there, put it away so nobody would see it. Reversed my jacket inside out. I'd taken my hat, great floor like, and my jacket was a gray poplin. We had these car jackets back then. They were like waist length, not a short jacket, but they kind of come down a little bit. There's no car jacket like, made out of a material that they no longer use. It was called poplin. You might remember that material. The poplin material, grayish color, had a shine to it. Excuse me, that's what the jacket was like that I was wearing, a pair of gray pants with it. And I reversed the jacket and it had the offset plaids in it, like, you know, kind of like checkered on the inside. When I turned it over, it looked like one of the old gray flannel shirts that we used to wear out, you know, when you was doing work in the yard or something or other. Excuse me. And I walked around the railroad yard and I was waiting for the time to pass. time was coming on. And when I heard the roar of the crowd, I'd been over by the fence, and I got there a few minutes early. And I'd look up, and I'd look over the fence, and I would looking for people. What I was looking for was not to see who I knew, but I was looking for people that would be carrying a bulge like up under the arm. I'm looking for somebody with a weapon. I'm looking for security people, cops, undercover, security, off-duty, whoever might be carrying a weapon. Bulge along their hip, behind their back, like I say, under the arm in a shoulder holster. I'm looking for these little bulges. Most people don't pay no attention to that, but this is what I'm looking for. But then my amazement, I recognized several people. A lot of people say Jack Ruby was never there, but he was there before the motorcade got there. I know that for a fact. But I was that close. I'm looking at the back side of him, and I'm pretty sure that was him. And I stayed away from the fence. I stayed basically in the yard, walk over the fence, look over it, spend a minute, then walk back away again. But I was observing the area.
Were you smoking cigarettes that morning?
I was smoking that day. Careless. I probably stepped on several cigarette butts and left them there. Most of them Pall Mall. It was very muddy. Let me put it this way. I a couple of times even took my shoes, put them up on the little concrete ledge there and scraped the mud off the bottom of them.
The gunmetal gray limousine, blue and gray. The President and Mrs. Kennedy seated on the back seat. Governor and Mrs. Connolly on the second seats or jump seats. And then the official driver and Secret Service men are in the front seat. It will go Mockingbird Lane to Lemon Avenue, then travel south on Lemon to Turtle Creek, Cedar Springs, through the downtown area on Harwood to Maine, west on Maine to Houston, through the Triple Underpass to Stemmons Freeway, then on to the Trademark.
The President's car is now turning onto Elm Street, and it will be only a matter of minutes before he arrives at the Trademark. It appears as though something has happened in the motorcade route. Something, I repeat, has happened in the motorcade route. There's numerous people running up the hill alongside Elm Street. Stand by just a moment, please. Put me on, Phil. Put me on. The motorcade is coming by here. The presidential car coming up now. We know it's the presidential car. You can see Mrs. Kennedy's pink suit. There's a Secret Service man, spread eagle, over the top of the car. We understand Governor and Mrs. Connolly are in the car with President and Mrs. Kennedy. We can't see who has been hit, if anybody's been hit, but apparently something is wrong here. Something is terribly wrong. I'm in behind the motorcade, trying to follow them. It looks as though they're going to Parkland Hospital. And just now we've received reports here at Parkland that Governor Connolly was shot in the upper left chest, and the first unconfirmed reports say the president was hit in the head. That's an unconfirmed report that the president was hit in the head. A priest has been ordered. Emergency supplies of blood also being rushed to the hospital.
I was where you got the concrete steps that go down by the pergola there, and between the pergola and the stockade fence, you got a set of concrete steps that go down. I was to the right of those. I must say 8 to 10 feet down there. There was a tree branch that hung right over me. I was behind that, kind of gave me a little camouflage. This was just a few minutes before the motorcade got there. If something happens and I have to shoot, you know, I don't want to have to shoot anybody else unless it becomes a necessity. So I'd walk away from the fence, and I come back over, secured everything, got it ready. I could hear the rumble, the people murmuring, so you know the motorcade's approaching. So then I got ready, opened it up. I'm holding the Remington fireball down below the fence at this point. Motorcade come down, I believe that's Main Street there, come down on Houston, turn back around onto Elm there, and come down that little side drive there. Oh, when it come down and made its first right, that's when I brought the weapon up. And then I'm over the fence, and as they come down, made the turn on down there, that's when I started focusing through the scope and following the car. As shots started ringing out, I started counting the shots, but I'm not counting like 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm counting them miss, 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 because I know we're going for the headshot. So I don't care how many rounds are being fired as long as we get a headshot. But I'm hearing the shots being fired, and I'm counting them as a miss, miss. And that's the only thing I'm concerned about. I've got this sign there for the Simmons Freeway that is fixing to come into my field of fire. As far as I can see at this point, the president has not been hit in the head at this time. I've seen the body lurch. I know he's been hit. How serious, I don't know. but my last instructions was we're going for headshot. If you have to take a shot, take it, but don't fire unless it's a necessity, unless you really have to. He said, Jimmy, don't fire unless you have to. We want everything from the backside. I'm not asking why. Okay, whatever you say. At this point, as it starts to approach and come behind that freeway sign, and I've already been instructed not to hit anybody but Kennedy because they didn't want Jackie getting hurt or anybody else, I'm fixing to lose my field of fire. And at this point, either I shoot or I can put it in a suitcase and leave, one or the other. I took the shot. I fired one shot only. I was aiming for his right eye, which to me is the left side of his head looking head on. But for him, it would be his right eye. And once I pull the trigger, I'm right in on it, and it's almost like looking 6 feet away through the scope. As I squeezed, take off my round, his head moved forward, I missed, and I coming right along the temple, just right behind the eye. No, all right, well, I'm not sure because I can't see the penetration. I know I hit him right here. I know I hit behind the eye, somewhere within a half-inch diameter right there, say. What I believe is this, and I got my ratings as marksman. I'm a good shooter, always was. And I'm not bragging on myself, don't get me wrong, but that's what got me my start with David Phillips because of something that I did in the service, and I made a mark there, and it's on record and it's recorded for headshots for what I did and the things that I did. But anyway, to make a long story short, as I was preparing to squeeze off my round, Kennedy's head moved forward just as I squeezed. It was already in process, the head started forward. To me, what I believe is, and I did not see, let me clear the fact now, I never saw Mr. Nicoletti shoot Kennedy, but I know he was the man in the Dowtech building, the man supposed to be doing the shooting. Therefore, the head started forward. As far as I'm concerned, Mr. Nicoletti hit him at that point. As I squeezed off my round, the head started forward, I hit him and blew the head backwards. I didn't hit the rear, the exit blew out. Partially, most of it on his right side, I guess, back there where the section come right out, part of the back of the skull. When I took my shot, and I knelt back down to the briefcase, I ejected the one casing in there, I picked up another live round, put it in, and closed the bowl on it. I took this shell casing as it come out to the briefcase, I put it in my mouth, tasted the sulfur from it. Love the taste of sulfur, by the way. Closed the briefcase up, and as I stood up, I did something I shouldn't have done, but I did do it. I took the shell casing, I bit down on it. I took it out and I looked at it, and I set it on the stockade fence. And there was an indentation from my teeth on the shell casing, on the ridge, by the orifice. And I left it sitting on the stockade fence there. You gotta understand, when you're young, you're cocky, everything is indestructible to you, Nothing can go wrong. And you gotta be a strong believer in all that. I mean, you're infallible. Chuck, Mr. Nicoletti would laugh at me when I do things like that, and hey, you say calling card, trait, whatever you want to do. He used to laugh at me over it. He told me, Jimmy, just you do the job, you do it and forget about it. Oh, if he would have known I did that in the Dealey Plaza, right now he's probably turning over in his grave for me doing something that stupid.
Jimmy, I'm sure you're aware that they have found two 22 shell casings.
I've heard that.
Have you got any speculation, any idea of where a second 222 shell casing is?
I have no idea whatsoever. I fired one shot only. I ejected the shell casing. Mine was a Remington cartridge, manufactured prior to 1963. I bit it, I set it on the stockade fence. I had no empty shell casings for a 222 with me at all.
This shell casing, by the way, was found not in the exact spot where you left it, a little bit further at the other side of the fence.
Well, I look at it this way. Whoever was searching, somebody up there looking, anybody could have looked at it, they could have thrown it over there, somebody could have stepped on it. Maybe somebody didn't want it found, who knows? They didn't want to carry anything away from there in case they got stopped. Maybe they just stepped on it, buried it in the ground. I don't really know. I know where I put it. That's all I know.
Was there anyone in your vicinity?
There was nobody behind that stockade fence but me at that point. Nobody. All the time I was there, I was alone. But in front of the fence, the two people that I was mostly concerned about was a couple of guys wearing suits. They were up there on top of the grassy knoll there, and they were a little ways in front, maybe 15, 20 feet away, whatever, I did not know who they were. They're between the fence and the sidewalk, between me and the motorcade. They're on top, they're at the top of the knoll there. They're kind of like looking over everybody and watching people. And this had me a little bit concerned, but I don't know who they are. At this stage of the game, Well, I'm going to take my shot. I got the 45 ready if I got to. Like I say, I don't want to shoot nobody unless I have to. At this point, and I've checked them, the shoulder holsters, the backside, I saw no bulges. As far as I knew, they wasn't packing. So I figured maybe they're just a couple of businessmen. Just, you know, people want to see the president go by. A lot of people are strange that way. Everybody wants to go see celebrities go by. But I took the shot, and as I was walking away, and like I seen Jackie crawl out there, motorcycle cop, he threw his bike down. He jumped off, but as he come running in a little zigzag or whatever you're gonna call it, like he's really into combat or something, he's still a wide open target. Anybody could shoot him. He's got his pistol out. And he's running up the hole there. The two men at the fence there, seen two guys with the suits, they go over and they open up identifications. So I have to figure these are probably my cover that I've never been informed about. And I was told not to worry. They stopped him and he never came no farther. He went back down off the knoll. I was told, Charles Nicoletti told me, he said, when you take the shot, he said, just walk away. He told me, don't run. He said, just walk away natural, Jimmy. He said, don't show no attention. I told him, I said, don't worry. And I had no intention of breaking out of there running, but like I say, if somebody comes at me, I'm willing to do whatever I have to do to leave the area. If I shoot somebody else, that's what I'll do at this point of the game. There was nobody behind the stockade fence with me. I am the only person back there. Anybody else back there is over in the railroad yard by the trains. Right before the assassination, there was nobody standing next to me. Oh, as I'm walking away, I've got my briefcase, gun case in my right hand. I've got my left hand over by my coat pocket. I got a Colt 45 there. I've got it fully loaded with 6 rounds on it. It's ready to go if I need it. I've already reversed my jacket. When I picked up the gun case, I reversed my jacket, no plaid side. I got the poplin gray material on the outside. I took the fedora I had shoved down in the sleeve of it, snapped it out, put it back on my head, and I walked away. Here in the briefcase, and my 45 inside my coat pocket. I had one thing on my mind. Anybody that approaching me with the determination to stop me, to question me, detain me, whatever you want to call it, or anything else. All I want to do now is reach my destination, which is the car, put the case in the back seat there on the floor, like I chugging me already have figured out. I'm going to get in the car, start it up, drive away.
Was the car empty when you got there?
No, sir. When I got to the car, Charles Nicoletti was in the front seat, Johnny Roselli was in the back seat.
And
There's only 2 seats in the front. We had the bucket seats in it.
so as soon as you got in the car, you just started up?
As soon as I got in the car, opened the door, set the case in the back, was behind the front seat, got right in the car, lit the ignition, and gone.
Anybody say anything at that point?
Nobody said nothing to me. The only thing that was said to me was, Mr. Nicoletti asked me, he said, Jimmy, don't you think you overreacted? I said, what do you mean? He said, do you think you fired too fast? And I told him, I said, I was fixing to lose my field of fire. Either I shoot then or I put it in a brief, put it in my gun case and I leave. I said, I had one choice. I said, at this point, you told me we were going for a headshot. There's been no headshot. I said, I'm just following my orders. I said, I didn't want to explain to you why I didn't shoot. And that was the end of it. And he told me, he said, at this intersection, he says, make a left and pull up at the gas station. We get down there, he says, we're getting out, we're getting in another car there. And I said, okay. I pulled out, parked, they got out of the car. He said, I'll see you in Chicago. And that was the only thing that was said. I took it as criticism, naturally. The only thing was he asked me if I thought I overreacted.
Do you think Lee Harvey Oswald fired any shots that day?
Lee Harvey Oswald never fired a shot. And if anybody knows what a parapet test is, and we have actual court documents on where Lee Harvey Oswald was given a parapet test by the Dallas Police Department, and on this document it plainly states, deceased J.D. Tibbet, deceased John F. Kennedy, suspect Lee Harvey Oswald. And they took a parapet test his face, his hand, his arm, I guess the side of his neck, and the only trace of any nitrates from powder burns or powder suspicions was in the palm of his hand. And anybody that goes to a firing range as far as weapons knows if you fire a .38 revolver or any type of revolver, the blow bite is going to come back across this part of your hand and your wrist. The only reason he had those nitrates in the palm of his hand is he was holding spent shell casings when I calibrated the scope.
No, I've not been charged with that. In fact, nobody has said that to me yet. The first thing I heard about was when the newspaper reported in the hall asked me that question.
You haven't. Nobody said what?
Sir?
You haven't. Nobody said what? Okay, we can't hear you.
But Lee Harvey Oswald, it's like they say, that's a court document. And I don't believe anybody rigged that one up.
I work in that building.
Were you in the building at the time?
Naturally, if I work in that building, yes, sir.
Back up, man. Did you shoot the president?
No, they're taking me in because of the fact that I lived in the Soviet Union. Did you shoot the president? I lived in the Soviet Union. I'm just a patsy.
Tippit killing is not related to the murder of Kennedy, if you want to get right down to it. The Tippit killing is related to Oswald, because Oswald was the one that was supposed to die, not Tippit. Tippit is one of these people that just stopped the wrong person, that got caught in the wrong place. And when he went to ask a party something, and you've got an officer in Round Lake Beach by the name of when he goes out and gives his tours and he talks, he tells people how careful they have to be, these young recruits, because you never know who you're stopping. Somebody should have given that talk to J.D. Tippit, because he stopped the wrong party and got him killed. The party that killed J.D. Tippit, they wasn't there to kill J.D. Tippit. They had parked a little ways from Oswald's boarding house. They went down there to kill Oswald. They wanted to kill Oswald. They didn't want to make a big spectacle out of it. They wanted to silence him at that point of the game, before anybody can get to him. But I guess, I don't know if Lee got spooked or whatever it was, but then he went to the theater, and he knew where he was going when he left there, because he was supposed to meet the controller there, which is David Atlee Phillips. He was the one that's supposed to be at the theater, as far as I understand. The party that shot J.D. Tippit was someone else that had been brought in. I'm not sure where he come from. I didn't even know this party was on location. But after that, I'm already back at the hotel. When the party comes up, somebody knocks on my door. I picked up my .45, walked over the door, pulled a little curtain back. I kind of look out the door to see who's there. And I see this party standing there that I recognize, that I know. And I opened the door, and my neighbor says, "What the hell are you doing here?" He said, "I had to stop by, I got a problem." So you got a problem? And I'm looking at him, you know. I'm still trying to register. How does he even know I'm here? Nobody knows I'm here, you know. This is getting to be a habit, like everybody knows Jimmy's in town. And he said, I had to burn a cop. And I said, "Well, you done what you had to do." He said, "I missed Oswald." And I said, "Well, what are you doing here? You burn a cop." He said, "You here? So you want to take this and get rid of it?" I said, "Hell no, that's yours. You take it and get rid of it. You just shot a cop. I don't want his weapon. Don't you get rid of it. That's yours. Don't get out of here." Somebody knocks on my door at this point, you know, I'm ready to start shooting again, you know. And he said, "Okay," and he said something another, I don't know exactly what it was, and he went out, he got in his vehicle, and he took off. I don't even know what he was driving, because as soon as he walked out that door, I closed the door and pulled the curtain back. Yeah, I don't want to know anybody. I don't want to know anything whatsoever.
You're not naming this party.
No, I'm not naming this party.
What is the reason for that?
What is the reason for it? Well, I don't know if he's still alive or not, but late as 1991, when I caught this case, I know for a fact the party was still alive and in good health, okay? But, you know, it has, you know, he didn't shoot Kennedy, he shot a cop. You know, everybody wants a cop killer, okay? But this guy's gone, I don't know who he is. I mean, I know who he is, but I'm not gonna tell nobody who he is. He's gone, that's out of there. I have no idea where he's at. I don't wanna know where he's at. All I understand is this: a party that I know that come by my motel room told me he had to burn a cop. The cop he burned was J.D. Tippit. That was the only cop killed in Dallas that day, so they had to be the one that he burned. Anyway, this party that was there that killed J.D. Tippit, he was brought in at a last minute notice that he had to be on standby. And wherever Phillips went, he usually kept several people around that he could use, people that he needed. Whether he needs them or not, they're going to be available. They always had what are you gonna call them, contract agents, operatives, co-operatives, or whatever. He's got people that he can use. If he needs something done, he can pick up a phone and have it initiated at a moment's notice. This party was evidently there on standby because he did not live in that area. That's why I was shocked to see him in my motel room. So evidently they took care of it that way. You probably couldn't get the FBI to admit to it, but when a couple of their people forced their way into Stateville, I was offered all kind of deals and all kind of agreements if I would not give an interview on John F. Kennedy before. You know, I told them to do what they got to do. They did, sorry to my regret, but the thing is this, I'm not going to give anybody up. I'm not going to put nobody in prison. I have never went to court and testified against anybody. And I've had a lot of deals offered in my time. I've told them, put me in jail. I went to jail. I've had cops tell me this and that. You know, we're going to lock you up. We've got you dead bang. I've had prosecutors come in and tell me, you're dead cold. Plead guilty. What I'm looking at here looks like part of the flap on the side is missing. But I don't see very much in this picture here, the back of the head missing. What I'm looking at here is a lot of hair. What's my conclusion? That ain't the right picture. That's my conclusion. You want my opinion on it, that's not the right picture. The photo that I just looked at, in my opinion, that's a fake picture. That is not the real picture. A lot of people might say you can't see nothing through a scope, but I'm going to tell you something. When you see something burst, his head like a watermelon, you're going to see pieces of stuff flying in different directions. People are going to be splattered by it. Boy, I looked over the fence and I saw Jackie Kennedy crawling out on the back end of the car, the limo. At this point, I got to figure, well, she's going to be picking up a piece of his skull, because a lot of people say you can't see nothing through a scope like this. But what you're going to see is like, and I saw it, the head explode. I saw the backside come out. I seen whoop brains or whatever you want to call it, tissue, hair, the whole thing going everywhere, just a spray. And if anybody displeased, just go out and shoot somebody and look through a scope while you're doing it and watch. I think one of the agents, probably one of the Secret Service agents riding on the back of the car. I'm only assuming that I would say they probably got splattered because there was stuff everywhere. But one of the other things I want to point out about the Remington 222 Fireball, it's a high velocity pistol. The round travels approximately 3,180 feet per second. Now then, for this type of weapon, there is very little recoil. Now, a lot of people say there's a lot of recoil, it's going to jump, you can't see nothing. And I've had a lot of criticism over the years over this here. So I'd like for somebody to go out to firing range somewhere, gun store, and take one of these particular types of weapons that carry a 222 round and fire. You're going to find very little recoil, especially when you're using an extended barrel weapon with a scope on it. You got the weight there to hold it down. It's not jumping and bouncing. You're not shooting a 44 or 45.
Did the motorcade ever come to a stop?
The motorcade, the best of my recollection, to me and my mind, and everything is slowed down at this point. When the first shot went off, it's like it stopped. It's just like it slowed down almost to crawl or barely moving, or maybe it even stopped. I'm not really sure on that point. I know I was waiting. It kept moving. It had to have been moving, but very, very slow. Because I'm waiting for it to get up the sign. I'm waiting for something to happen so I don't have to shoot. Not that I'm afraid to, but if I don't have to, I don't want to. But like I say, when the car got even almost up to that Simmons Freeway sign there, and that was one of the most, and ain't like these new ones they got today with nice little skinny metal posts and a little sign. These here had, made it, I guess, the wooden legs on, or what do you want to call it? The post, the hell, it was wood. Anyway, I had my shot. You see where I shoot now right now? I took my shot.
Were you nervous in any way?
Was I nervous? No. If I'd have been nervous, I'd have been shaking. I couldn't have made the shot. A lot of people may find this hard to believe, but you've got to understand something. First time you go into the field of fire, when you go into a firefight in combat, you might be nervous or skittish. But after you've been initiated into the field of fire, whatever you want to call it, combat, firefights, a lot of people got different names for it, skirmishes, you get over it. And to me, and a lot of people are really going to think I'm probably sick, but when you got into a firefight, that was the element high. I've never used drugs in my life. A firefight to me, being in the service, that was one of the greatest things there was. It was the ultimate high. And at this point, when you're stalking down somebody, and this particularly, they stopped me from hunting animals altogether. When I was young, I used to love to go shoot deer, rabbit, squirrel, whatever I could get, pheasant. But after you went into the jungles and you've hunted man and you've stalked a man down and you've hunted a man down on equal terms where he can kill you, you have no desire to go shoot a defenseless animal. My impression of Lee Harvey Oswald? Lee Harvey Oswald is a very quiet type person, secluded, very private, mild-mannered, you might say. He wasn't one that he didn't do a lot of boasting or bragging. He didn't do a lot of cabareting. I mean, what he did, he kept to himself. Lee Harvey Oswald, as far as I'm concerned, I like the guy. Very intelligent, very intelligent. When we got into certain subjects, I mean, he could make me look like a dummy, let's face it.
So he's a lot better educated than...
Oh, he's a lot better educated than what people say. Lee Harvey Oswald, he had very good self-control because he had a little scar up on his lip. And I asked him one time how he got it, and he told me it was in the Marine Corps. Somebody hit him with the butt of a rifle up here. I thought, you must have ripped their guts out or something, ripped their ass out. He said, no, he said, I didn't do that. So what do you mean? He said, it's an accident. He said, I didn't get upset about it. But that's the type of person he was. He was calm, he was collect.
Capable of killing someone?
No. Lee Harvey Oswald, everybody's capable of killing somebody. Let's face it, you got your back to the wall. But is Lee Harvey Oswald a killer? No, he wasn't an assassin, no. Lee Harvey Oswald, when I say he wasn't a killer or anything like that, Lee Harvey Oswald, he had it all up here. Very, very intelligent. I almost said he had a good IQ. And he held a top secret security clearance. And there's another thing I'd like to state and get on record. They talk about Lee Harvey Oswald, all this and that, and him running off to Russia. The only way Lee Harvey Oswald could have went to Moscow. He held a top secret security clearance when he was on the base in Japan. You hold a top secret security clearance, and people can go check this anywhere. In the days of the Cold War, you did not jump on a plane and fly to a communist country, and I don't care who you was. You had to be cleared for it. The only people that could have engineered that for him to go to Moscow was the CIA. And the Russians were so scared of Lee Harvey Oswald over there, not fearful of what he'd do to them, they knew what was going down. They gave him a place to stay, and he wound up marrying Marie over there. And they was too happy to put him on a plane to send him back to the U.S.
Gave him money.
Yeah.
What was going down then? What was the mission for Lee Harvey Oswald?
I have no idea what the mission was, but he went over there for some reason. I never asked him. He never told me. I never asked him why he went to Russia, but you cannot tell me that he was disgruntled with this country and he wanted to go over there and be a member of the Communist Party. There's no way. He took a cover and he went, and they just wouldn't buy the story.
Would you describe him as patriotic?
I would say Lee, he did a lot of work for this country. Everything he did was based basically on this country. He was not a traitor. I don't care what anybody says. All the research based, everybody can say all they want. I know Lee Harvey Oswald. He wasn't that type of person. He wasn't a traitor. I went into my room. When I got in the room, Zita went in, sat down, relaxed, got a drink of water, stripped all my clothes off, went in, took me a shower. Come out of the shower, I took some wax that I brought along for this particular purpose. And if anybody wants to try this, it can be pretty painful. But I knew that I would have redstone on me here and on the side of my face from firing the weapon and across my hand and wrist. Took hot wax and I poured it on myself and let it cool so it cut into the pores on the side of my face. And after a few minutes, I peeled it off, which would remove all the nitrates from any gunpowder. I went back into the shower and showered again, then showered, finished up with a good cold one, because it felt like I was kind of on fire and burning. When I got out of the shower, dried off, then I put a lotion over everything to cool the burning sensation, and then I got dressed. Once it got dark, I went out to the car. Nobody was around. Make sure everybody was inside doing whatever they're doing in their motel rooms. Opened the trunk up. I took the weapon out of the trunk. And when I'd gotten out of the car earlier, I'd taken the briefcase, the gun case with my fireball in. I'd already taken that into the hotel. I went inside, had one weapon I took in, cleaned it, got it ready to put back in the car. I waited till after midnight. I went back out to the vehicle, got in, pulled the back seat out, took the top part off the back, put the gun back in the rack, the rifle. I secured my fireball, put the gun case in there, closed everything back up, and went back in the hotel. I went to sleep. I got up the next morning at the first light, went down the road. There is a restaurant down the road, there a little ways off on the right-hand side as you're coming back east. Restaurant, coffee shop not too far from there, maybe a mile and a half down the road, something like that anyway, best I can remember. I stopped there, had me some coffee, breakfast, got in the car and I left. I drove back to the southern part of Illinois. When I got to the southern part of Illinois, it was starting to get dusk, getting late. Pulled off at a motel there. As you got back in Illinois, I can't remember the name of it. I remember it was like a blue and white one. I want to say Southern something another, like a truck stop, a lot of trucks there. I went in, got a room, and I stayed overnight there. The next morning, I went out, got in the car, proceeded to Chicago.
Do you have any proof of what you've told us in regards to the Kennedy assassination?
When it gets down to this part about a lot of people ask a lot of different questions about things, the one thing that I could verify right now, which cannot be made public, is the ledger, diary, ledger, whichever you prefer to call it. It's a book with some papers and things that Charles Nicoletti gave to me before he was killed. Things got pretty active here. Sam Giancana was the first one to be killed, and that was in '75. And I'm not sure, maybe September. It was '75. Go there. He was killed. The night he was killed, Johnny Roselli was in town. But I saw Johnny Roselli at the airport. And when Johnny Roselli come in, we didn't talk or anything. I was there to pick somebody else up that come in on that flight just by coincidence. And I was picking up a party that I did a lot of work for, collecting money and things. But anyway, I seen Johnny. We just nodded at each other. He had another man with him. When they left, we was right behind them. They got in their vehicle outside. We got in ours. We took off. We went down the road. We went down River Road, proceeding south. And the kid with me said the only place Johnny could be going would be going over to see Sam. Fifth Avenue on River Road there in Belmont, they had a place they called the Blue Horizon. Johnny pulled in there momentarily, let the guy with him out. Whoever this guy was, he wasn't going to Sam's house because Sam didn't like a lot of people coming to his house, and if he didn't know them, they wasn't going to get in anyway. And Johnny went on. I went my way, Johnny Roselli went his. Johnny Roselli, the next morning I woke up, Sam Giancana had been executed, gangland style. When he was killed, bells went off of me. Johnny Roselli had to be the one to do it, because he was there. I know he went to Sam's house that night. The following year, Johnny Roselli was killed. When Johnny Roselli was killed, the party, figures the same guy that he probably dropped off. There was 2 people killed down there in Tampa, St. Pete, there in that area. That was got rid of at the same time. One was Johnny Roselli. The other one, another party unknown, whoever it was. I don't remember the name of him now, but evidently it was a friend of his that had traveled to Chicago with him. I figured he knew something, and somebody took him out too, because they knew that Johnny Roselli, what he had done, okay? This guy, he might have told this guy knew, they got rid of him. And when it comes down to it, the crime family did not have Sam Giancana killed. I don't know who killed him except for Johnny Roselli there, but I believe that the government ordered the contract killing on Sam Giancana. I believe the government is the one that killed Johnny Roselli to shut him up so he couldn't talk.
All of this was about the time of the House Select Committee on Assassination?
All of it, yes.
So
The following year.
that was the tie-in?
Pardon me?
Roselli,
Definitely.
Giancana?
But anybody that knew Sam Giancana, they knew Sam Giancana would have never talked. He'd have went to jail. He'd have kept his mouth shut. He would not talk. The following year, Johnny Roselli, he got killed. That silenced him. And then, March 29th, this is the night that Charles Nicoletti was killed. And he was supposed to go testify before some committee. And he was killed at the Golden Horns right there in Melrose Park there on North Avenue and Manheim Road, the Golden Horns restaurant. And I thought at first maybe somebody in the family had hit him because we knew there was trouble. And right before his death, he'd given me this package and told me, he said, this is my life insurance. He said, if I need it, I want you to have it, you can always get to it. He said, and if anything happens to me, he says, you might need it someday. So what he gave me was, I took it and I went out, got me some cheesecloth, I wrapped the little package up and I put it in a little metal box. I went out and I dug a hole and I buried it. Put it away and covered it all up. So about a week and a half later, Chuck was killed. After he was killed, right after that, maybe another week, 10 days later, so I walk out of the club. It's a nice night out, so I walk down to the corner and the car's coming down off the side street onto Lake Street. Well, it comes up, does like, rocking for a Hollywood stop, comes up the stop sign and stops, hits the brakes and kind of rocks back. I step back up on the crib so I don't get run over. I'm thinking nothing about it, just nonchalantly, The next thing I know is somebody sticks something out the window and I got sprayed in the face. And I hit the ground. I don't even remember falling down. When I come to, I was strapped up, tied up, blindfolded, and I went through a pretty severe torture test. And all this here has been verified also. What they wanted the ledger. They never got it. When they got through with me, my legs were still taped together, my arms and wrists were still taped behind my back. They threw me out of a car out there in Elmhurst. People found me, they called the cops up, police come out there. Some of them recognized me. Everybody in town, as long as I've been missing, everybody figured I was dead.
When they threw you out of the car, do you think they thought you were dead?
Oh, they thought I was dead, definitely. Otherwise, they'd have never left me alive. That's why I've always blamed the FBI for it. Because the family or the CIA, they would have a couple of holes in the back of my head and 4 or 5 inside the mouth through the palate, gangland execution style. These people, they didn't do that. When evidently they figured I was dead, they didn't even bother to untape me, nothing. I was still naked. They threw me out of the car in the nude. Ankles still taped, hands behind my back, everything's still taped up. And they never got the ledger. It's still missing. Not missing, I know where it is. And let me clarify one thing. Nobody in the world knows where that is but me. It's right here. Nobody else can ever take them to it.
Still your insurance policy.
It's still it. And if I die, all those secrets in that book go to my grave with
Now,
me.
what's all in that little package? There's a little box,
It's
right?
a little box, little package inside, cheesecloth inside a metal box.
What's in there?
What is in there? And this side, this ledger, what they want. I got a few other things in there, but what they want is this ledger, because it's got just about basically every murder that was carried out in the Chicagoland area. It's got dates, it's got names, figures of money, different things, reasons why, people who ordered it.
Anything in there about the JFK hit?
You got, there's a couple little lines in there. It's got JFK down, it's got the date on it. Basically, that's it. I'm in prison for a specific reason. When I come out of the federal prison, I did a federal stretch and I was out for a little while. People started trying to kill me. When they started trying to kill me the first time, I was at along Quentin Road and Rollins Road in Round Lake Beach, shortly past midnight, driving a little Chevy Chevette. And the cops had been harassing me there. They knew who I was. Every time they see me, they'd handcuff me, get me out of the car, and my papers blew out. They'd throw all my stuff down the street. But this particular night, I pull up the stoplight there. I'm on Quentin Road, fixing to make a right-hand turn on Rollins Road. I'm staying with my aunt and uncle at this time. They're about 2 blocks down from there. I looked up in the rearview mirror, and I seen a car pulling up behind me with no lights in the next lane. I thought, shit, it's cops again. You know, I'm gonna get hassled again. It's not a squad car number, but I just figured it's detectives, you know. As it pulls up alongside of me, I'm looking in the mirror, sitting by the door, the little door mirror on the side, and I see an SMG come up. What anybody don't know what that is, it's a small machine gun, automatic weapon. As I see it coming out of the window, I roll across the seat, hit the door, hit the ground, roll back up against the rocker panel of the car. They put 30 holes in my car. Full clip they put into it. As they were pulling away, I come up off the ground with my piece, and I got up about 4 rounds. I'm on federal parole at that point. I'm not supposed to be carrying a weapon, but you never find me without a weapon. I got off 4 rounds, took the back window out. They kept going. I jumped back in my car, took a right on the Rollins Road, went down to Grove Avenue, pulled into the house of my aunt and uncle's at 1620 Grove. Went in there and got the tarp from my uncle out of the garage and put it over the car so they couldn't see the bullet holes. That was the first attempt on my life. I got out of federal prison in '88. This year's late '89, early '90, I guess. And when they started trying to kill me on the street, that was the first attempt on my life in the free world, as I call it. Next day, I went to see somebody down in the city, and I went up and I asked him a specific question, if we had a problem. I said, I went and I did my federal time. I said, I got busted on the chop shops. I didn't take nobody down with me. I said, I went, kept my mouth shut. I didn't testify. I didn't give nobody up. I took the conviction. I done my time. What's the problem? We got a problem, let me know. And he told me, he said, Jimmy, he says, he always called me Jimmy boy. He said, Jimmy boy, he says, come down, come down. He said, listen to me. He said, you got no problem with us. He said, you did your thing. He said, hey, you didn't have the problem. When you was down, you got money, looked after certain people for you, took care of your family. You had no problems. When you come out, you went to the restaurant, you said, everybody parked, everybody come by to see you. You said, we dropped a lot of envelopes. He said, you have money when you come out. Everybody looked after you when you come out. That's respect. Don't think we're after you. Said, whatever you've done, it's with your previous employers, not us. That's on the other side of the fence, the people that you worked for before. He said, them, not us, Jimmy. He said, I give you my word on that. After I talked to certain parties in Chicago, down in the city, about them trying to kill me, and he's telling me that was my previous employers. What we're talking about here, we're talking about a government agency. I won't say which agency it was that tried to take me out, but I know at that time I had people in the DOD on me because I had taken certain material off the computer at Oxford from the arsenal, so I worked in the office. I had an access to classified material there for building new tanks, new helicopters, everything. I had the gun emplacements off one of the Black Hawk helicopters. I had the allocations for everything. I had the rate of firing, anything that's classified, because we made a lot of the stuff there. We made the nitrine cable to fire the Sidewinder missile inside a federal prison. Okay. Anyway, the second attempt was, well, now I realized this here is not the crime family after me. It's got to be a government agency. The second attempt on my life was, late at night, they ran me over on my motorcycle. They hit me so hard, they bent the frame on it. They totaled the motorcycle out. That's all on record. Next time I come around, the third time, with these 2 off-duty officers. One of them is David Ostertag. They will never admit they had a contract on my life. And I want to stay one thing. I got no hard feelings against either one of these officers, even though they tried to kill me. I don't take this anything personal. I take it they were doing a job. They were doing what they was paid to do. They just blew it. But the thing is this, I'm here because somebody opened up on my partner and me. They tried to kill us in broad daylight on May 7th, 1991, 3:15 p.m., maybe 3:30, in the middle of Route 12 in a little place called Buffalo Grove. We're between Quinton Road and Long Grove Road on Route 12. They forced us off the road. When they forced us off the road, they say it was a high-speed chase. It really wasn't a high-speed chase. They spotted me at a gas station. I didn't even see them. I paid for the gas, got in the car. My partner, David Morley, he was driving. As we pulled out from there, they got in behind us. They got up alongside of us. He started hit the gas to go. And I told him, now hold it, pull it over. We don't run from nobody. And my exact words was, we don't run, pull it over. We'll deal with it. They cut us off like he pulled into like a part of a driveway. It was gravel, a little fast. He hit the brakes, we slid into a little tree. The tree we hit wasn't any bigger than my arm. I threw the door open on the right-hand side to exit the car. This was a leased car. As I threw the door open to exit, they drove their car, which is a white unmarked car, into the side of our car. When I seen the front of the car coming at the door, I jerked my leg back up off the ground so I wouldn't get it cut off and they were broken, and dug my head, and when they hit the door hit me and knocked me back into the car. I bounced off the dash, and at that point, they opened fire. My partner, David Morley, very good man. He saved my life on several occasions in the free world. His left hand is paralyzed. He'd been shot up a couple times before in shootouts. He can't use his left hand. At this point, he's leaning down, fumbling under the seat of the car, looking for his gun, looking for a 9mm. And I'm yelling, get out, get out, get out. And to me, it seemed like it's taking forever. When he got the 9, he put it up under his arm. He's got to close his arm, reach across, open the door to exit. This is only a few seconds, but it seemed like a lifetime to me. When we come out of the car, when he come out, he took the first shot, David Ostertag went down. At this point, when I come out, there was no need for me to even shoot. The other officer, Bittner, I didn't know they were cops at that time, neither did my partner. We had no idea they were police officers. He crawled up under the car, and he was screaming, I guess, they're gonna kill us both, they're gonna kill us both. David Ostertag was already down. I grabbed the AK-47 out of the car, had it in the back seat. I'd went and picked that up out of the storage shed for the simple reason I'd had a meeting prior to those people, and somebody had poked me in the chest, and I just knocked them down and stomped on them a couple times and told them, don't ever threaten me to tell me you're gonna trunk me. If you do it first, and then come and tell me that you done it. I went and told David, I said, we got problems. I went and got the AK-47 out, got the ammo can out. I had a 30-round clip in the AK-47. This is all in the law books. The ammo can had 520 rounds of ammo in it. David Ostertag can tell you how many rounds we had for the 9mm, the clips, all the loose rounds. I went into a little swamp. Took them several hours to get me out. The AK-47 tractor spring, it broke, it wouldn't fire. A lot of people around, a lot of people. We had traffic backed up from the shooting incident there all the way to Wisconsin and all the way to the city of Chicago.
So if who opened fire first?
They opened fire first.
And they were in an unmarked car?
Unmarked car.
Plain clothes?
Plain clothes. They had a windbreaker on. They were wearing a badge on their gun belt underneath the windbreaker jacket, sitting in a car. They were shooting from inside the car. David Ostertag had exited, coming around shooting when David Morley dropped him.
Did they ever say you were under arrest, or?
No. Did they yell police officers?
Nobody identified nothing. I mean, the shooting started.
How many shots were fired before your partner took the shot?
Well, I'm going to say they got off probably the first 14 shots. They say they fired 3 and 11 out of 52. They said we fired the rest of them. But there's not that many shell casings on hand. And if the only weapons that were fired were 9mm that day, and my weapon hadn't been fired, that leaves 3 clips. It's only 45 rounds of 15 rounds to 9mm in a staggered clip. And they didn't fire that many. They still had rounds in theirs. So there's no way 52 rounds were fired that day. Oh, there's all kind of witnesses that seen what went down. There's witnesses that will plainly state on who got out, who shot who, and who shot first. That's all in the court documents.
So how they get a conviction if there were witnesses to say they fired first?
That was very simple. We were tried in Lake County, Illinois. It didn't take them long to convict us. Everybody on the jury was related to a cop. You don't shoot a cop and walk away. You shoot a cop, it don't matter if it's self-defense or not. I had witnesses that come there to testify on my behalf, and that was irrelevant, and they were not permitted to testify. My own aunt was not permitted to testify at my trial. As far as I'm concerned, it was a frame. That bill was self-defense, over and out. And I didn't even shoot nobody.
What has changed in your life in recent years?
I think probably the biggest change in my life is, and let me go back just a little bit farther. Before this change took place, I had no emotions or no feelings, basically speaking, for anyone at all. My family never came first. The agency came first, crime family came first. Everybody was always ahead of my wife and my kids. Wrong, I know that. I know that now. I've got probably a lot of regrets, maybe some remorse for a lot of the things that I did do. I'm sorry at times I wasn't there to see my kids go to their little school plays or do their dances, recitals, or whatever. I'm sorry I wasn't there for their birthdays, for a lot of their Christmases. But those things are part of my life growing up. These are things that I accepted because to me, other things were more important. My family, my wife, my kids, they were way down on the list of priorities. Wrong, I know.
Are you remorseful about shooting Kennedy?
For many years, no, I wasn't. But as the time goes by, I'm not saying remorseful for shooting Kennedy. Maybe I'm more remorseful for how it affected this country and for the things it's done. Maybe John F. Kennedy did do some good things for this country. I'm not really sure. But I got a lot of remorse for a lot of things that I've done. But that's for the simple reason I've got my life turned around a little bit. So I can't be as hard as I used to be. I try to have a lot of compassion for my fellow man. But for John F. Kennedy, got to be honest, yeah, let's say I got a little remorse there for him because not specifically maybe him, but like for his family, for the kids and all. But at the time when we acted, I felt that I was right in what we were doing.
Why did you dislike the man?
I disliked Kennedy. The reason you got to understand, I didn't like Kennedy for one reason. I didn't know the man personally, never met the man, never seen him in person as far as I know. The whole thing was, I was heavily involved in training for the Bay of Pigs. I didn't go with them. I wasn't on the shoulder. I wasn't a soldier. I didn't go there and fight. I never fired a shot. I trained them in setting up demolitions, making bombs, weapons, ambushes. We call them MAs, mechanical ambushes, firing weapons, trained them in weapons trade, and some hand-to-hand combat. What I did wasn't all that important. But you get to know guys. You work with them all day. You're out there at the fire of the night. You sleep out there in the wilderness. You know, you live together for a while. They get trained. They go away. If I'd have had my choice, I'd have went with them. Luckily, I didn't. But when they went there and they got slaughtered, got arrested, put in prison all their lives, tortured, killed, it was a mess. All because Kennedy, and we had all kind of firepower sitting out there waiting. We got to have some good airplanes there. They shafted them bad. Kennedy wouldn't do it. He got scared. He wouldn't go for it. When I say Kennedy got scared, he was scared of Khrushchev, Russia and them. But the whole thing was this. That's one of those things. They called it off. It was a no-go. They had no support. They went in. They got their ass shot off.
So you felt like Kennedy had betrayed him?
Oh, Kennedy betrayed. I felt like he really betrayed me, even though he didn't even know who I was. But he betrayed the operation itself. And this was a government-sanctioned operation without a doubt. And when this happened, and then later I found out that a lot of the people that we had trained that were supposed to have been there, they were put on I want to call it a banana boat, like a freighter. And these people, they were trucked around. There's several hundred men on this freighter. And they're giving them like a 5-day joyride around the Gulf of Mexico instead of taking them over there to fight. And these guys, these Cubans, I mean, they were dedicated. They were dedicated where these were, well, when you get down to it, what's a patriot, what's a terrorist? The Cuban that have been terrorists, that's the patriots, okay? A patriot and a terrorist, the only difference is what side of the fence you're on. Everybody's fighting for what they believe in. But these Cubans, they were fighters. They wanted to go. And they were very, very upset with the agency and a lot of other people because they didn't make the scene. At the time, I believe the Kennedy assassination was a necessity. The reason it was carried out, the reason it was ordered, in my own belief is the money people, the power people, they wanted to stay in Southeast Asia. It's not about who did who to what over here. It was about the money that was to be made. John F. Kennedy wanted to bring all the boys home from Southeast Asia that were over there. Certain people wanted to keep those guys over there. We needed it because there's going to be deep seaports built. There's going to be the biggest runways in the world built for bombers in different places, in Guam, Okinawa. Southeast Asia is going to be flooded with air bases. We're not talking millions, and we were talking maybe $1 trillion or more. You've got your chemical companies just going to come in. This is the greatest ground there ever was for chemical warfare testing. And to have a war, you need deep sea ports, you need runways, airplanes, manufacturers, tanks, weaponry, ammunition, munitions to be made, bombs to be made. We're talking an all-time economics deal here. Big money. They're sad to say, the rich get rich, the poor get poor. The poor die, the rich got richer.